All right, what is up, guys? Decided to make a video here quickly to upload on the channel. Uh, this one's gonna be about Warrior frames. So I've had a couple of second gen frames, which would be the silver one, but I finally I got a first gen frame and a pile of parts I picked up. So I figured this would make a perfect scenario to really compare the differences and possibly find the advantages and disadvantages of each other, and also really to help point out the true differences and how you can tell which frame you actually have. So first, to start off with the first gen frame. This frame started in 87 and ran through 88 and halfway through 89. It looks like seems to be 89 first gen Warriors are fairly rare. However, I have actually seen them where people show the VIN. It does come up 89, but most of the time they are a second gen, but they do exist. First thing right off the bat, when you see a first gen, typically the front shocks are a little bit shorter. It's kind of hard to tell, but if you come here and look at the frame, well, obviously the headlights are down the bottom here, they're not up top. So first gen down here, second gen they moved them on the mount up top here. When you look at the suspension, you see the lower mounts are very close together. That's one of the big differences with the first gen. So they use different A-arms between first gen and second gen. So they don't swap. 87s will actually have a replaceable ball joint. However, I've seen the ball joints are pretty expensive. So typically not worth it. I've never really paid much attention to first gens just because of parts. Parts for Warriors are already scarce enough for aftermarket support, and first gen used to be non-existent. But now I think Full Flight's finally making some A-arms. Another way you can find if you have a first gen is there is no mount back here for the heel guard. So this rear bumper mount is where the heel guard is. If we come over to the second gen frame, you can see we have a mount right here. It's because first gen Warriors never came with heel guards. The foot pegs actually are different as well. It's a smaller foot peg. There's no mounts to mount Nerfs up to. Second gens do have the mounts because that's where the heel guards mount up to. You can also see right here where the headlight bracket is. Coil mount here. Coil mounts are different. The whole electrical mount is different. So, of course, the hoods are different. Something that's hard to see, but when you get them next to each other, you can, when you compare them. First gen Warriors have a 1-inch long swing arm. It's good or bad, depending on what you do. I personally don't think Warriors need a longer swing arm, but a lot of guys like them, but I'm different. So when I really got into studying the geometry between the two, I really want to figure out, what's actually the best base to build off of. What can I get the best handling characteristics? Now, everyone always says, Warriors, they don't handle that great. But really, once you really dive into suspension and kind of do some things, they're not terrible. Obviously right off the bat. So the second gen, bump steer, it's not great. I would not recommend maybe adding any wheel travel, but the reason why the bump steer is not that great, just kind of, you can see where how wide the AR mounts are. Now, it's not terrible. It's actually, they're about an inch apart compared to a YFZ. So I think I could work with it, possibly. If I could get it each lower mount inside about an inch or a half inch, I could possibly mimic the YFZ 450 carb model geometry. You come over to this first gen, of course, these lower mounts are pretty close together. They're actually closer together than a YFZ 450R. Sounds awesome for bump steer. But when you actually come in here and look at the frame is actually very flat. So there is, it's the suspension is set at 0 degrees of rake. So the KPI is very low on this frame. So the downfall of that is, say you possibly put a Raptor 660 swing or rear shock on. It's very popular on Warriors. You can get in a scenario where your suspension is actually traveling into the bump as it's traveling up. It's obviously not a very good scenario to be in. It's going to cause you a very rough ride. The suspension is working against itself. And same with the way it is at 0 degree. I mean, the suspension, it's just traveling straight up, so it's creating much more of a jarring motion on there. That's one of my things I don't really care about this first gen frame is, there is that. It just, that geometry is working against itself already. We're looking at ways possibly to change it, see if it can be made better. I think, there's a lot of opportunity in this frame. Might be able to kind of emulate more of a YZ450R geometry, but it's being looked at. But if you come with a second gen frame, it's more, you can see how much different the rake is. The suspension is definitely laid back more. I measured it at 7 degrees about, which is about the same as a Carb YFZ and a Raptor 700. So I assume the 660 is also the same way. So it's not terrible. It's actually a good base to come off of. I mean, you could build a decent riding four-wheeler with this frame as it sits. I think the big thing that needs change is the upper shock mounts are really close together. They need to come out, about 4 inches or so. They're really get a good motion ratio on a good suspension. But overall, probably a little more information than needed, but this is kind of the differences between the frames. I mean, you can even tell back here where the CDI is, that plate's not there. The bumper mounts are different. This is broken, but the bumper mounts are way different compared to first gen, second gen. And I mean, just look at the frames too. I mean, this is very straight. And then you can see the mounts here for the lower. So hope this helps anyone looking to see, what frame they have here and kind of what parts. Some parts do swap over. Obviously, the suspensions are way different. The spindles are different on first gens. They use different calipers. So I typically prefer the second gens. I do. Like I said, it does have a little bit more of a bump steer, but I think I could work with that and possibly tune it out. So leave in the comments if you have any more questions or if I forgot anything. See if there's something else I can go over. All right, thanks.